All right, let's get into these player battles. So the first two players I got running backs, BIJAN and BREECE Hall. Okay. So for BIJAN Robinson last year, obviously he's the one that's a little bit lower. BIJAN struggled with Arthur Smith last year. He had the Arthur Smith experience was BIJAN's problem last season. Finishes the RB9, a lot of high hopes for him coming into the year, but he finishes the RB9, still left a lot to be desired though. Like wasn't being used in the red zone, wasn't being used in the passing game like we thought. Tyler Algier at times was being used. Hell, they were even running Jonnu Smith in at times. So with BIJAN, it's like we got a little bit of the underwhelming side. And then for BREECE Hall, second half of the year, once Zach Wilson got out of there, and it was what, the Trevor Siemian experience? Bro, he was seeing all kind of targets in the second half of the year. He finishes the RB2. Surprisingly, BREECE Hall finishes the RB2 on the entire season last year, was straight up carrying teams down the stretch. He had 100 fantasy points in the last 3 games of the year. So I think this is a player now, we know he's going to be up there, right? But I think where are we finding the value? Both of these players could finish RB1, but we now have Aaron Rodgers. This isn't going to be dump off central for BREECE Hall anymore. I'm taking BIJAN in this conversation. I'd rather have BIJAN because the upside is there. In this offense with Kirk, who we've seen have really, his running backs have had good seasons before. Dalvin Cook has looked amazing with Kirk Cousins in the past. And now we get Raheem Morris in there who really wants to get the ball to his running back. He wants to get the ball to his featured players, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, BIJAN Robinson. And my gut is that he's going to see a lot more red zone work than he did last season. That's where the win is for BIJAN, is can he get the touchdowns? I think BREECE Hall, a lot of it's baked into the receptions. So BIJAN with 58 receptions last year, and BREECE Hall at 76. Who are you taking? For me, I think there's way more upside with BIJAN. We saw a little bit of the ceiling last year for BREECE. He'll be another year off of the ACL injury, though, which is good. I'm still going with BIJAN in this one. I think this is the year we see a little bit more of a breakout season from BIJAN Robinson. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Who you got? Davante Adams is the wide receiver 9 right now in fantasy drafts. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is wide receiver 10 already? How is this happening? How are we doing this again with another rookie? Marvin Harrison is the wide receiver 10 in ADP right now. Are you out your mind? Why are we doing this again? Like, I get it. Generational prospect. It's fun to draft rookies. But why the hell are we taking a guy who hasn't seen the field yet above some elite wide receivers? Say Marvin Harrison has a great year with Kyler. What's it, 1,200 yards? Are we expecting him to be a 1,500-yard, 100-catch receiver? Like, are we going to start putting – that's what you're drafting him at right now. You're drafting him at Davante Adams level. You're drafting him at ceiling. Some of the names that are going after Marvin Harrison Jr. when it comes to wide receiver position: Chris Olave, Michael Pittman, Brandon Ayuk, who's fresh off a 1,300-yard season. You know who else was an early pick in the draft? Drake London. He's going after Marvin Harrison, and we saw him struggle early on. Mike Evans. Mike Evans is going after Marvin Harrison Jr. And the battle right now is with the guy, Davante Adams, who a lot of people think is on the decline. Surprisingly enough, Davante Adams was pretty good last year, even in a down season. He had 103 catches, 1,144 yards, and 8 touchdowns and finishes the wide receiver 10. If Marvin Harrison did that, we'd all be like, yo, he's for real. He's the next big deal. I get there's not a lot of weapons in Arizona, but Trey McBride is still there, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, and he craves the ball. He gets the ball a lot. Kyler Murray's going to use his legs. James Conner is going to get the football. I'm not just penning in Marvin Harrison Jr. for 1,300, 1,500 yards. I can't do that. I think Davante Adams, if I'm taking one out of these two, I know what I'm getting out of Davante Adams. I'm getting around 100 catches, around 1,200 yards, somewhere around 10 touchdowns. I got to see it still with Marvin Harrison. For him to be wide receiver 10 is absolutely wild. Wild. Who would you rather have, Davante Adams or Marvin Harrison? Who y'all rocking with? Speaking of Jettas and Ja'Marr Chase, who do you guys got? Let me know who you guys got in the comments. Jettas or Ja'Marr Chase? Chase being drafted as the wide receiver 3 right now. Jamar and Justin Jefferson being drafted as the wide receiver 4. Obviously, some things going on with Jettas. A lot of smoke when it comes to trade rumors. And then T. Higgins, the stuff's kind of settled in with him. So we can assume that he's going to be available for this Bengals team heading into the year. But one thing about these two is both of them LSU receivers. Both of them have had really good rookie years. Both of them have had decent seasons and are thought of as top receivers in the league right now. The one thing about Jamar Chase, he's only been a top 5 receiver once. I don't care about games played, or you can look at fantasy points per game. He's played 3 years now. We only got 1 top 5 season out of him. Jettas, we're talking about all 1,500-yard seasons, except for last year when he had a 1,000-yard season in 10 games with Jaren Hall, Josh Dobbs at the end of the season. So I'm all over Jettas. I don't know how Jamar Chase has passed Justin Jefferson in ADP. And I don't know why Justin Jefferson, just because he has either Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy, is now has slipped this far from the number 1 spot. The talent's still there. He's proven that he can play with any quarterback. Why are we now dropping him down this far in the receiver conversation? Because of his quarterback situation. If Darnold starts, it's going to be a great thing. Darnold is better than Jaren Hall. Darnold is better than Josh Dobbs. Like, he's not great, but he's better than those two. And I think just the floor of a 1,500-yard season for Jettas, if he plays all 17 games, is enough for me. That's enough. The one thing about Jamar Chase is that offense, sometimes it goes through Chase, sometimes it goes through T. Higgins. It comes and goes at times. And Joe Burrow has had trouble staying healthy. We got to keep it real. He's had trouble staying healthy. He said he's 100%, but we have to see that with him. I like Jamar Chase, and I think he's a good player, but I'm taking Jettas every single time over Jamar Chase. Every single time, every single format. Give me Jettas. Jettas has wide receiver 1, the wide receiver 1 potential, no matter who his quarterback is. Jamar Chase, his potential right now, his ceiling has been a top 5 receiver. We haven't seen top 3 yet out of him. Give me Jettas. How y'all feeling about that one? We got JJ feeling Chase over Jettas. Okay. I'm feeling Jettas over Chase. The quick switch up. I think it's a good battle, though, right? Like, that'll be an interesting spot because there's going to be some people who take Chase for the upside of like 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. But to me, if Jettas plays the entire year, that's his floor. That's his floor. Over 1,000 yards in just 10 games last year. To me, this is a very good example of like ADP really don't mean shit. It's tiers. They're in a similar tier. But to me, I'm not going off of strictly ADP and saying I got to have Jamar Chase over Jettas, and I think a lot of people will. A lot of people will. That's the one. That's going to be one I think that a lot of people don't agree with me on. Jettas versus Jamar Chase. And I'm going to take Jettas every single time. All right. And in the last player battle, let me know what you guys think about this one. Travis Etienne versus Kyren Williams. Currently right now, Travis Etienne going as the running back 7. I'm going to open up TikTok here too. Currently, Travis Etienne is going as the RB7. Kyren Williams going as the RB8. Okay. Now, Travis Etienne, last year everybody thought his workload was going to decrease because of Tank Bigsby, which is something we still got to look into that, right? Like Tank Bigsby is going to get more carries. Doug Peterson already talked about it. But Kyren Williams, the team just drafted Blake Corum. He just got injured. He hurt his foot. He's going to miss a good portion of the offseason. The team has just said they wanted to get Blake Corum more involved in the passing game now. So now he's going to take over passing game work. He's already a bigger frame, so he's more durable. And we know Sean McVay loves to ride the hot hand. It's just what he does. He rides the hot hand. So for me, there's a lot of red flags with both these players. Kyren and Etienne. Red flags. Etienne is the safer of the red flags, in my opinion. No Calvin Ridley anymore. This team's going to rely on star power. You need a back like Etienne. I think they keep him fresh with Tank Bigsby. So we lose some of the upside that we had with him last season. That's half of it. We lose some of the upside we have with Etienne, but I think that's been reflected in the ADP already. When it comes to Kyren, there's so many red flags. We know his upside. I mean, dude was RB8 in 12 games? What was he? Kyren was the RB7, excuse me, in 12 games. He played 12 games and was the RB7. He had 1,100 yards in those 12 games. I know it's there. I know the potential and the ceiling is there. But the red flags are dude can't stay healthy. He has a small frame. They drafted a back who can do just as much. They drafted a back who had 27 touchdowns in his senior season. Like, can pound the football. So I have a lot more concerns about Kyren than I do about Etienne. And I do have some with Etienne. But shit, if I had it, I'm fading both of these players. If I had to take one, I'm taking Etienne over Kyren right now. Kyren has way too many red flags for me to trust.